What is going on YouTube? So I just got done watching season 1 of Batman, the Caped Crusader. So we all know that this was supposed to be adapted based off the Batman animated series, but did it exactly live up to the hype? Not really. But was it good enough to get a renewal for season 2? Well, let's just talk about it. So the first aspect of the review we're going to talk about Batman. Now Batman, I can say he grew on me throughout the series. I'm not gonna lie, voice acting, I did say in the beginning, it was very skeptical. But I can say over the series, it felt like he got a lot more comfortable with the voice. Bruce Wayne's voice and Batman's voice was very distinctive, and I loved that. The only time where Bruce Wayne used his actual Batman voice was on when he was only alone with Alfred, but his version of Batman did grow on. You can tell that Matt Reeves did have his hand on this series a lot. He basically took his idea of Robert Pattinson's detective work, implemented into this, and I thought they done it beautifully well. I really think that with this story and what they were trying to do with this Batman, he shut off his detective work. Not really a lot, but for almost each of the episodes with all the crime bosses he was facing, he used his detective work. He was spying on people, getting behind the scenes, inside looks and scoops on everything. He was being Batman. I really enjoyed that aspect of him. Combat wise, he was ruthless. He was ruthless. It was a mixed bag. He was ruthless sometimes, and sometimes he was getting his butt kicked. That's like with the 8th episode with the girl at the clown show and the fair. She did have some super strengths and weird powers, but he was getting. It's like he was holding back a little bit, which I don't understand because the girl was literally wiping away the energy from children, looked like, and like she was trying to actually kill them. But you know, I guess Batman maybe being the bigger person was just not wanting to hurt the child. But overall, there was scenes action wise where he was ruthless. Specifically in the first episode when he was hanging the guy off the guardrail.
Who's behind those explosions?
Oh God! Who? What are you?
3 buildings blown to pieces. You falsified the reports. Who paid you?
And he was fisting to get ran over by the train. That was Batman for me. I enjoyed that so much. I really like that side of Batman. Really dark and very broody and very just vigilante, not caring for what he's doing and just being Batman. Just not giving a crap about anything but just the greater good of Gotham. That's my type of Batman. Did they hit home on this? For the Elseworld story they were trying to tell, it works. But as we all know, if you want to get a good adaptation of Batman, turn on Batman the Animated Series. That is your Batman. Okay, Kevin Conroy knocks out the park. Emotions, feelings. We did get that to a certain degree in this series, but they didn't really put an emphasis on it. The only reason why we really saw is the tension between Alfred and Batman. With Alfred wanting to share his feelings, with Alfred trying to get Batman to share his feelings a little bit about how he was feeling and the things he was going through when he was meeting with Dr. Quinzel. But he didn't want to open up to that aspect. So it's all fine, all good and dandy. But my biggest exclamation point, which they didn't get to that, they didn't actually do it. But at the very last episode, Batman had a gun. And he was fixing to shoot Flash. Oh my gosh. If they would have done that, it would have screwed it up for me. It would have just screwed up I wouldn't want to watch anything else. I wouldn't want to watch another season that they would have went out with. I would never watch this series again. Thank God they didn't do it, because oh my gosh, I was about to have a heart attack. Moving on to the villains. Now I'm really not gonna include characters like the Rupert Thorne. I really consider them like side characters. But we're just gonna get to the main big baddies of who I really enjoyed and who I really did. Moving on to number 1, we have Miss Catwoman. Now you always know I am going to have a soft spot for the Catwoman. Okay, she's my favorite DC woman character for the most part, outside of maybe Wonder Woman and Supergirl. In this story, they did a twist on her character. She wanted to be like Batman, literally be like Batman. She wanted the same car that he drove. She wanted the same outfit that she had. She wanted to act just like Batman. Her character was really well done. I really liked that they put an emphasis on her love affair with wanting to be like Batman. That's something new, something different. I really liked it. She weren't only in love with she wasn't only in love with the Batman in the sense of his looks and the way he acts. She wanted to actually, she loved the man so much she wanted to actually be like him. Which sounds weird when you say it, but for the most part, it actually works. I love the voice actor for the character. I love how not serious she is. She actually felt like a Catwoman who was very just carefree, didn't care what she thought. She's Selena Kyle. I'm Selena Kyle. I am who I am. You know, it was nice on a serious take, and I really enjoyed it for the most part. Moving on to number 2, we have Penguin. Oh Christ. Basically, I'm not going to give a real dissection of each episode. I'm basically breaking down aspects I like. But you could tell if I didn't like the character, for the most part, didn't care for the episode. But that don't pertain to every character. With this, it just didn't work for me. The voice acting don't work. The whole persona of her being this big bad mob boss, the whole thing calling her mama and stuff, didn't work for me. The way the character was written didn't work for me. It felt wrong, felt awkward, felt forced. She really didn't give this bad character impression. You know, she blew up the GCPD. I'll give her that. She was so mad at her son for leaking information about her and her mob deals that she was willing to blow up GCPD. I give her credit for that. I really do. But as a character, wasn't a big fan. Wasn't a big fan. I'm sorry. Argue with your mama. Moving on to number 3, we have Clayface. Clayface was pretty good for the most part. I have nothing to argue about with him. I think he was done really well. I think he was done justice. He didn't blow up to this big old clay, big body feeling guy. He didn't blow up to this big figure like he is in the comic books and like in most adaptations of all the films. He was just a guy. He's made out of clay and he's dressed up in a disguise like a murder outfit, just going around and killing people who affected his past in order to eventually get revenge on the girl not falling in love with him. I liked his story. I liked the reason why he was doing the crime he made. It made a whole lot of sense. It felt like a Batman villain type character arc. It worked. I was a huge fan of him. I liked the episode. It was one of my favorites. And I liked the little murder spree he went on and Batman having to do detective work in order to capture him. Moving on to Firebug. Again, I'm telling you right now, I wasn't a fan of that episode. I really wasn't. They could have scratched it out. They could have left it out. They could have went without it. I wouldn't have cared. The character was useless. The character was boring. I don't care about him. He basically just used fire, and I guess he was basically a poor man's Firefly. It was a filler episode. I could have cared less. This is probably arguably one of my least favorite episodes in the whole season. So I didn't like the character. Basically, he was forced upon us because he was using this bait for Batman for Flask and Bullet trying to capture Batman, which obviously wasn't going to work. But didn't care for the character, didn't love the character. Don't care to see him again at all. Didn't care for his power, even though he's supposed to be a Birdman's Firefly, but it wasn't interesting. He was weird, boring, and not interesting. Moving on, we got Automatopoeia. I didn't love him. I didn't hate him. He was a weird guy. He was basically he was saying words every time. Like when he was wanting to shoot somebody, he said bang, or like when he was invading Batman at one time, he was saying whoosh or something like that. I really can't remember, but he was weird. He was weird, but I didn't love him, but I didn't hate him. He was in the middle. He was like, okay, good enough character introduced in an episode. I enjoyed that episode for the most part. I really thought he was cool. He was weird, but hey. We didn't really get much of him because he really didn't do anything. He did give Batman to work a little bit, which I do respect him for that. But overall, villain-wise, for him being a villain and being the culprit, the reason why of wanting to be the one to fight Batman, he really wasn't. He was like the mob boss. He was letting his reinforcements do all the work for the most part. But when it was time to fight Batman, he did do his due diligence. So overall, pretty good. Not great, not bad, but good. Moving on, we got Gentleman's Ghost. Now, I did enjoy this episode. We brought back the spiritual element of Batman. We brought it back, and it was great. It was new. It was fresh. It felt different. It was messed. It was tapping in with another world we're not used to. The spiritual aspect of Batman's world. I enjoyed it. I thought Gentleman Ghost was really interesting. I think his character, the way they written him, he was interesting. The reason why he was doing what he was doing and stealing from the poor made a lot of sense. I didn't hate him. I didn't love him, and it wasn't okay. He was actually pretty good. He was actually pretty good. Interesting character. Loved the voice actor. Loved the conflict he had with Batman and giving Batman the business a little bit, and basically respecting Batman for how good he was at combat, and and toying with him a little bit and disrespecting him and savoring him to kill him, to wait around and kill him and see him again. But overall, like the episode, decent character. Moving on to Nocturna. I think I'm going to be in the minority with this. I didn't care for this character. I really didn't. I thought she was dumb. Her her power was basically she's got to feed off the energy of other people. Basically a Superman parasite wannabe knockoff. Her power was just feeding off of little children for the most part. Maybe I don't. Obviously, she fed off of older adults too because she was trying to feed off Batman's energy. She wanted to suck the energy out of people. She had superpower, super strength, but she was a very dull character. Not a lot of no charisma, no emotion. Just very bland, very basic. And ultimately, the reason why she stopped fighting Batman was because she killed her own brother, and so her ending to her character in the series was very unsatisfying. So overall, could have did without her. Moving on to the second last character we're going to talk about, Harley Quinn. I have mixed emotions about this. I really do. I enjoyed the Harley Quinn aspect of the character. The Harley Quinzel, not so much. She was annoying. She wouldn't shut up. She was too bubbly. But Harley Quinn was very serious, very to the point, very weird, but a good weird. Now, it was good weird for her character. Now, the only weird thing though is I didn't care for was her, like, she was psychologically brainwashing people into doing weird things. She made this guy dressed up in a baby outfit. I didn't care for that part of it, but she was weird. She was weird to the point to where she was interesting, and I was into that. So she's a mixed bag. I enjoyed the Harley Quinn aspect of her character as a villain. I'll count that part of her pretty good. Harley Quinzel, absolutely not. I hope she stays dead and will not come back, but I will miss the Harley Quinn aspect of her character. And moving on to the last character, my favorite character in the whole series was Two-Face. I wasn't, as y'all know, I was not a fan of Harvey Dent in the beginning of the series, but overall in time, he grew on me. He really did. I love what they did with his character at the end of the series. He was basically part of the heart and the plot of the story. I love they kept his psychological side with him having two different personalities. You got the Harvey Dent, and then you got the Two-Face talking at the same time. He showed a lot of heart and emotion between him and Bruce Wayne. Him still wanting to have love for Bruce Wayne and for Barbara Gordon and want to still be good, but at the same time he did have his own demons he was trying to fight, and he wanted revenge so bad against Thorn that he was willing to do anything to do it, in ultimately compromising his own life. I really enjoyed his character. I hope he comes back in some sort of fashion. Ultimately, technically, is dead, which sucks, but please, Matt Reeves, find a way to bring him back. He was so interesting. He was my favorite character. Just bring him back. He was very interesting. I love this take. And hopefully, Harvey Dent lives on. Moving on to the supporting cast. Now, I can tell you, for the most part, it was okay. Barbara Gordon's character, wasn't a huge fan. Obviously, outside of political reason why I didn't enjoy her or Jim Gordon's character for the most part, because they were race swapped, and I cannot stand race swap characters. But I can say that Jim Gordon did grow on me. He was very boring and very stale in the beginning of the series, but over time he became a focal point because the mayor was ultimately on his run to capture Batman. And then we got a lot of chemistry between him and Batman, and actually we could see why Jim Gordon was actually a believer in Batman and wanted to help Batman, but ultimately in every instance where we found that he said that, hey, I'm gonna have to lock you up if you stay here. So Jim Gordon did grow up on me a little bit. Barbara, for the most part, too. Also, she did grow on me a little bit. She actually wisened up, and actually she showed a lot of her character and caring for others, which I did like. She cared for all the psych patients that she had as a DA. At the very last episode, she was trying to save Harvey with any means necessary. I really enjoyed that. Detective Montoya, she was a big focal point at the beginning of the series, but eventually got put on the back burner, which I cannot say I don't disagree with. Her character don't really care for her. She weren't really smart. She weren't really charismatic. She wasn't really a leader, even though she tried to be, especially in the fourth episode where she was trying to capture Batman. Didn't work. She just didn't have the leadership role in her, and then wanting to lead her up to make this sergeant character out to be. Flash and Bullock, they were crooked. Okay, I really enjoyed their characters. They were interesting. They were trying to one up each other all the time. There was one point where Harvey was trying to turn them on one another, and eventually it worked to a degree. But they went together real well, and I really enjoyed their characters. And hopefully we get to see more of them in the future. But overall, supporting characters, they grew on me at the end of the series. Again, we're going to get to this on the very next part, but they were part of the problem. This is when we get into the story. Overall, the stories worked, but my biggest problem was Batman not being the focal point of every episode. Specifically talking about episode 4, for example. The GCPD was wanting to capture Batman, and they were coming up with ways to capture Batman, and it weren't working. But my problem with this was it was only focused on the GCP's point of view. Why couldn't we just get Batman's point of view of it? Why can't we just see just Batman saying, wonder what they're trying to do? Give his analysis on what's going on, things of that nature. Batman was getting put on the back burner a lot. Well, not really a lot. But for a lot. I won't say a lot because that's really pushing it. He was getting put on the back burner in many instances in this series. I really wish, like episode 6 with the Gentleman Ghost, Batman himself, he's trying to solve the mystery with the Gentleman Ghost. It's just him by himself solving the crime. That's what I'm looking for. Even with episode 3 with Catwoman, that is what we were looking for. That's what we want in a Batman series. If it was the biggest negative that brought this series down, it is that aspect of the story. Batman was sidelined in majority of the episodes, wasn't the main focal point behind each character and solving the crimes of each character / villain. That just killed it for me. Not a big, to many people may not be a big deal, but it was. Outside of Batman, story wise, everything seemed to make fluid. There was only maybe 2 filler episodes. Like the Firebug episode, I really didn't care for. The 8th episode with Nocturne, I really didn't care for, but that one wasn't really a filler episode because it did lead into the story with Harvey Dent eventually becoming Two-Face. But if I did, there was 2 filler episodes in my opinion outside of half of towards the end of the 8th episode, and that leads to the ending of season 1. We do get a teaser of inevitably season 2, leading to introducing the Joker. Now, does this series deserve a season 2? Yes and no. From a story perspective, based on the foundation that they've laid right now, I don't know if a season 2 would even do that good with the audience. But based off of the story, that's the critic side of me. But from a fan perspective, and being a fan of the character, seeing some more stories based off of Batman, because we've never had this adaptation of Batman put on screen. As a fan, I would be interested in seeing the episode 2, seeing what they got. Not episode 2, a season 2. I would be interested in seeing a season 2, seeing what they got to offer with the Batman character, going deeper into his villain gallery and his lore. We saw that they were teasing Joker, which I can say right now, I am not a fan of when it comes to the voice acting. It was bad. It was pretty bad.
Perfect.
But I can say yes and no. To piggyback off what I'm saying, from a critic standpoint, and ultimately this is what I think WB and Warner Bros. Will go off of, and Matt Reeves and Bruce Timm and all them. The critic side is, with the fans, has been a mixed bag with this series on Rotten Tomatoes. Critic-wise, the critics thought it was really good, but basically you're making it for the fans. So the fans, there's a mixed bag. Based off that, I think there's a solid possibility that it will do season 2. Am I opposed to that? Absolutely not. But to answer the question, ultimately, did this live up to the adaptation and the stature and the glory and the fame of Batman the Animated Series? Absolutely not. Batman the Animated Series is going to live on in history on its own. It's going to be number one on your Mount Rushmore of DC comic adaptations. Batman the Animated Series is the series you want to watch if you're a Batman fan, if you want to know what Batman is, the character, the trueness behind the character, the love and affection of his lore and adaptation, supporting characters, everything in one tree. Batman Animated Series is your series. But if you want a nice Elseworld story and a different take on Batman, Batman and Caped Crusader hit home on that reasoning. But I really think the story-wise, Batman not being a focal point of the whole series really brought it down. I think the GCPD was involved a little bit too much, and ultimately it brought it down. But overall, I will give Batman the Caped Crusader a solid 7 out of 10. Not great, not bad, not meh, pretty decent. If you enjoyed my review of season 1 of Batman the Caped Crusader, comment down below. If you yourself would like to see season 2 of Batman the Caped Crusader, do you think they deserve a season 2? Let me know down below. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe for more. And as always, peace, love, and positivity always, baby. See ya.